actual further manifestation of that. So just because the whistleblowers are going to come on out and start telling what they know is going to be a very interesting summer, fall, and winter as we have a sort of an internal review here mainly in the U.S., that is to say that area is dominated by NASA, as to what they really know.
Well, and I think that it's starting on a somewhat of that's already starting. It's just not maybe some of the big boys yet.
Oh yeah, it'll take a while. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I still think some of the lower echelon, if you will, I really hate using those terms, but the lower echelon, I think some of those people, because those are going to be the first ones to go. They've already started coming out and presenting different ideas, and there's a lot of people that's coming forward. And it's just, I think you're right in those reports. I think it's just going to get monumentally huge with the information.
It's just according to our stuff here, it's just going to be a wave of it, such that by the time we reach March of 2010, anybody who is in denial about the contact between humans and, let's say, off-world intelligence or interdimensional whatever, will have to actively be in denial. I mean, they'll have to actively not want to hear it because it'll be everywhere.
Well,
again, that's kind of cool. It should be very interesting.
Well, and I'm not sorry about it. I'm not sorry about it. It's way past time.
Yeah.
It's way past time. All right, let's go into the next segment here, which is Terra blankets, floats, and
Chimmies.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting stuff here.
Yeah, we have a tendency to find that archetypes end up with the same linguistics stretching across differing subjects. So, for instance, we have blankets in the sense of the surreal label from the weather. This whole undeniability is going to cause people to think the world's changing and their whole point of view, their whole relationship with the universe is changing, and their perception will change. And to them, it'll be very much like the Alice in Wonderland kind of going down the rabbit hole and seeing all these strange things and not knowing how to put it all together. And that's going to descend across the whole planet in such a way that we decided, well, that it's going to be more or less a blanket effect. Not getting everybody, but a whole large number of, or let me just say that the larger mass of the unaware are going to experience some cognitive dissonance issues over summer that will lead them to probably end up using and really understanding what the word surreal means. Most of it appears that we'll get some big peak towards the dog days of summer, the mid-July through mid-August period. And that's going to be interesting there because it does appear that that'll be pretty much weather-related and will be related to jet stream. So is it going to be snow in the middle of summer in odd places? Maybe so, simply because the jet stream is going to be behaving really, really strange and will contribute to this whole undeniability. We don't really have much in the way of details saying that, it's going to be, a zebra-shaped hailstorm in New York in the middle of July. On the other hand, what we do get says that the people across the northern hemisphere will start understanding about the undeniability factor. And that really, the blanket approach goes on down to the chemtrails and the issues there. We had noted in previous reports that chemtrails would come out as a mainstream subject, and we see that, Obama's administration is actively talking about planetary-wide weather engineering.
Right.
Excuse me, using many of the 402 patents that relate to chemtrails.
Right.
So, in fact, that's coming out. Another part of that we had spoken about goes back to whether or not they can continue to do it. Because, again, it's the whole money issue. It costs a lot of money to buy all that kerosene to fuel all those jets to pump out all those chemicals that you spent a lot of money buying. And the chemicals are not cheap. And it's going to get to the point where the powers that be at the Obama administration level, the political elite level, will actually have to start having a public discourse as to how much is the planet, that is to say the rest of us, willing to pay to support this effort to stop the dreaded global warming or whatever they're going to phrase it in terms of that. It'll be a fear campaign as well, just to try and keep the chemtrails going, but it'll at least will bring it up to some level of public debate.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, here they've been doing this for I don't know how many years, and, now all of a sudden, just like everything else, it's going to be, part of mainstream information. And, again, it just is, it really takes off the rose-colored glasses. Each aspect that your reports bring out just peels off those rose-colored glasses, another layer of them.
And you find out how interconnected all of this
Sure.
is. It's just, you start in on one thing and it leads you to the next, and then you make the mistake of looking to the left or right, and you find out that stuff over there is connected.
Yep. Well,
Yep.
and it's just like you and I and everybody else, we're all interconnected. So, it stands to reason that it's not a starting or stopping point. You can't go back and just pinpoint, well, here's where it began. It began
Right.
and is a widespread thing,
Right.
and it's been an interesting ride, to say the least. We have about 4 or 5 minutes, I think, something like that. We have about 8 minutes. I was way off on my timing. Whoa. We have about 8 minutes left. What else in the Terra blankets can we talk about? Or do we have time?
The real important part is the big squeeze,
Yes.
the magnetic pressure cooker effect. There's a lot of actual science on the Russian and Polish, to only speak of it two, science journals supporting the idea that the magnetic ribbon at the middle section of the Milky Way that we're currently transiting with our solar system, and which we peak at its most dense part on the 21st of December 2012, is indeed a giant magnetic pressure cooker, if you will. And it is not that our magnetic systems within our solar system are weakening. It is that they are being dampened down by the more giant, more pressing galactic magnetic system. So in other words, the swirling red spot, the perpetual storms on Jupiter and Saturn have been scrunched down into smaller sizes. And we find that the sun is quiet. Well, it's not quiet because it's getting weak or anything, but it's quiet because it's getting pressured. So it doesn't have much opportunity to get into the situation of throwing filaments off and developing cold magnetic spots, which is really all sunspot is because of the greater galactic magnetism that's pushing that down, pushing the heliopause down, the heliosphere, the magnetic sphere around the Earth, etc. And that also is probably what's causing the bad driving in Kansas. No, seriously.
Well,
and if you're not
if
you're not sleeping well because
right.
the magnetism, or your eyes are a bit wonky or something along these lines.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because right after that, I started having people come to me and go, "Man, I haven't slept. I just can't sleep. Doesn't matter what I do. I take a sleeping pill. I still can't sleep." So again, so it begins.
Right, exactly, and that we've seen for a long time, and
Yep.
that's been a big contributor to the whole idea that we'll have people walking around just suddenly stop in the middle of a street and just sort of stand there, spaced out, and it's because their poor sleep has caught up with them, and they just can't go anywhere, and the extra magnetism is monkeying with their brain.
So anywhere in there, do you have any advice for people as far as how we can protect ourselves from the excessive magnetism?
Okay, now this is where it gets really dangerous.
All right.
You got to be real careful.
Okay.
But I'll be straight out with you.
Good.
There are some suggestions that the powers that be are interested in some substances, but people should not go on out and buy this stuff without knowing their bodies, without being really careful about it, because these substances are very expensive, and once ingested, you can't get rid of them necessarily. But it seems as though the powers that be, or rather, let me put it this way. The powers that be are spending money to investigate ORMs within the testing on military subjects within the context of anti-radiation, in the sense of not being getting sunburned and being able to withstand radiation that naturally comes from such things as welding. And so the ORMs are orbitally realigned molecular elements that you may see people touting under the name of like white gold. But not all white gold is ORMs. ORMs are very difficult things to engineer. And basically what they do is for instance, a gold atom is pentagonal naturally. Gold is really cool. It's the second on the chemical order of most stable isotopes. We start off with tungsten, which has no natural stable isotope in nature. Then we have gold, which has one, then silver, which has two, and then we run through all of the other precious metals, platinum, rhodium, iridium, etc., before we're getting into the base metals. But anyway, gold has these 5 molecules, or 5 atoms that clump together to form a natural gold molecule. And ORM is where they take that through a process and collapse it in on itself, so that all those 5 atoms occupy the space that used to be in one atom. Okay? The ORMs are ingested on the theory that they're going to lodge and support structures within the pineal gland, and there's some support for this.